the circumstances or the situation. Therefore, I thought it is necessary to clarify all the misconceptions that have been bandied about in the media. One of the first points to which I want to give an explanation, the main criticism has been that the film should not have been banned and that protection should have been given to the cinema theatres to ensure the screening of the movie. Now, there have also been various comments made that it is the duty of the state government to maintain law and order. Most people do not seem to understand what exactly is involved in maintaining law and order, and most people, especially those who air their comments very frequently over television channels, seem to be totally unaware of the sheer logistics of administration, maintenance of law and order. As far as I am concerned, as the Chief Minister of the state, as the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, my first and foremost priority is the maintenance of law and order and to ensure public peace and a tranquil atmosphere in which people can carry on with their daily lives and their daily work. Now, how is law and order maintained? Practically, physically, through the police force. Now, I would like to point out a few facts. For argument's sake, suppose we had allowed the film to be released despite the protests and the demand for banning the movie from various Muslim organizations. Suppose the government had proceeded to allow the film to be screened. This film was proposed to be released in 524 theatres in Tamil Nadu alone. Now, various Muslim organizations, Federation of Muslim Organizations comprising 24 Muslim groups, outfits, organizations, parties, and some others who are not part of the federation, like the Tawheed Jamaat, they had all submitted a memorandum to the government, and they had met the Home Secretary, and they had demanded a ban on the movie for reasons which they have already made public. Now, overruling their protests and overlooking their demand, these Muslim organizations had also announced various demonstrations, picketing, agitations in various places. And there was every apprehension that these protests could turn violent. Now, assuming that the government had allowed the film to be screened in 524 theatres, when intelligence reports were received about the possibility, the very real possibility of violence around the theatres, the only way to maintain law and order would have been to provide necessary protection, police protection, to all the 524 theatres. Now, I would like you to think and ponder over whether this is practically and physically possible. The sanction strength, total sanction strength of the Tamil Nadu police force is 1,13,718. 1,13,718, this is the total sanctioned strength. Of these, the vacancies are 21,911. So the actual strength of the Tamil Nadu police is 91,807. This is the actual strength. Now there are many special units like the Economic Offences Wing, Idle Theft Wing, Cyber Crime Wing, Traffic Police, so on and so forth. Now, if you deduct the personnel required for these special units, then the total is 87,226. Only 87,226 police personnel for a population of 7 crore 28 lakhs. Now, there are regular duties of the police. The strength required for regular law and order duties, investigation, intelligence, traffic, escort duty, court duty and other essential duties is 78,000. So that leaves a balance of only 9,226. So assuming that we had permitted the release of this movie in 524 theatres, the available police strength for providing bandobast and protection to the theatres would be only 9,226. Now is this adequate? Certainly not. The strength required for one theatre for one shift at the very minimum is 20 police personnel, which is not adequate. The strength required for one theatre for 3 shifts is 60 police personnel. And the total number of theatres in which Vishwaroopam was to be released, 524. So the manpower required for 524 theatres for 3 shifts is 31,440. 31,440. In addition, there has to be patrolling, but at the rate of 10 patrols for each district, with 10 men for each of 3 shifts. That means another 11,000 police personnel. And in sensitive areas like Coimbatore, Ramanathapuram, at least 10 pickets on average for a district would be required with a strength of 20 personnel. That would make a total of 7,500. And there has to be a striking force ready in each district for any emergency. So the striking force at the rate of 6 per district with 30 personnel each would be 6,500. So all in all, if Vishwaroopam was to be released in 524 theatres, the total manpower required just for bandobast and protection for Vishwaroopam alone for these theatres would be 56,440. Whereas the actual availability is only 9,226. Now I would like you to ponder over these figures. How is it practically possible for a state government to provide protection and maintain law and order when we don't have adequate manpower? If it is a case of just 2 or 3 theatres, probably it could be done. But 524 theatres, I have given you all the figures. So I would also like you to understand what is the meaning of maintaining law and order. Maintaining law and order doesn't mean allowing a situation to turn violent, allowing violence to take place, and then stepping in to try and quell the violence and restore peace. And particularly when you have only a limited police force, as we do in this state. What would be the alternative for the government? This is what we normally do. We rely on intelligence inputs. If intelligence reports tell us that there is likely to be trouble in a certain place, there are likely to be violent incidents in a certain place due to such and such reasons, then what the government would do, what the police would do is to take preventive action to see that that violence does not occur. Now, for example, there are certain political leaders who create trouble wherever they go. If they enter a sensitive district and if they are allowed to make some rabble-rousing speeches, there are always violent incidents. So at some times, because there is no other option, the district administration, the collector takes the decision of banning that person's entry into the district for a certain period of time. Thereby we maintain peace. So maintaining law and order doesn't mean allowing a situation to erupt and turn violent and then trying to quell the violence. That's not always possible. It's not sensible. It's not practical. The sensible way of maintaining law and order and maintaining the public peace is to prevent violent incidents from occurring. And when you know that there is going to be violence in a certain situation, in a certain place, it is the duty of the government to do whatever is possible to prevent that from happening, to take preventive action. It is only in that spirit that we approached the issue of the release of the film Vishwaroopam. Now, I have been accused of having a personal motive in this. One motive that has been attributed is some business interest in a private TV channel. Many papers have published such reports. Many TV channels have reported such news. The channel in question is Jaya TV. Jaya TV is a channel which supports the All India Anna DMK. Other than that, Jaya TV does not belong to me, does not belong to the party. I do not own any shares in Jaya TV. I am not in any way associated with the administrative, day-to-day administration of the channel. I have nothing to do with Jaya TV. So to say that there was a demand that the film should be sold at a low price to Jaya TV and because of that I am taking this action, is a wild, reckless charge against a responsible constitutional authority. And whoever has made these charges, we will have to take legal action against them, whether it is a newspaper, whether it is a TV channel. And the second is that I have some personal motive, some personal grudge against Mr. Kamala Hassan. And the reason being attributed for that is that he made a speech at a function somewhere saying that a dhoti-clad, a veshti-clad Tamil should become the Prime Minister. Now, why should I take offense to such a statement? Mr. Kamala Hassan has got the freedom to wear his political views like anyone else. If he wants a veshti-clad Tamil to become the Prime Minister, that is his opinion. And by now I have been in politics for enough years. I have been in politics for more than 30 years. I am experienced enough to know that Mr. Kamala Hassan does not select the Prime Minister of the country. So, at the time the elections take place, more than 100 crore people are going to cast their votes. And after that we have to see which formations emerge. And out of the emerging formations, the future Prime Minister will emerge. So why should I take offense? And then Mr. Karunanidhi has come out with a wild, fictitious story that I wrote a letter to Mr. MGR in the 1980s complaining about Kamala Hassan. Now, this is one of the most ridiculous pieces of fiction, one of the most absurd charges I have ever faced in my life. In the 1980s, I was meeting Mr. MGR on a daily basis. He was the Chief Minister. I was the Propaganda Secretary of the party and an MP. Every day he would go to the Secretariat in the morning. I would go to the party office in the morning. In the afternoon, both of us would meet at his Mambalam office. We would have lunch together. After that, we would discuss various issues for hours together. I would brief him on all the issues concerning the party, about various petitions that were presented by party men, about various petitions that were given to me by members of the public wherever I went. And he would call the necessary officers and issue the necessary instructions. So when I was meeting him practically every day, on a daily basis, why should I write a letter to him? And that too on such a trivial matter. So, since Mr. Karunanidhi has made this fantastic charge, it cannot be dismissed lightly. So, we will be instituting legal proceedings for defamation against Mr. Karunanidhi and all the newspapers which have published this fictitious defamatory charge. So, I would like to make it clear that I have no personal grudge against anyone, no personal interest in banning the movie. I would also like to point out that If at all there is an adversary, if I do have an adversary, it is Mr. Karunanidhi himself, my political adversary. His family members are regularly producing movies and releasing them. I have not done anything to ban the movies produced by Mr. Karunanidhi's family members or stall the release. So why should I do so in the case of Mr. Kamala Hassan? Why should I have any grudge against Mr. Kamala Hassan? It just doesn't make sense. There is no reason, no motive at all. And then there has been some misleading information in the media that the state government doesn't have powers to ban a movie. Now that is a total misconception. I would like to correct that. We have the Tamil Nadu Cinemas Regulation Act 1955. Tamil Nadu Cinemas Regulation Act 1955. According to Section 7 of this Act, the state government has full powers to ban a movie if it feels there are sufficient reasons to do so. It was under this Act that the movie Damn 999 was banned. It was upheld by the Supreme Court. So the state government has got full powers. So, if I really wanted a ban on this movie, I could have banned the movie straight away. My government could have issued a ban under Section 7 of the Cinemas Regulation Act 1955. But we did not do that. I did not do that. If I wanted, I could have done it. But I didn't do it. So that itself should show, that itself should prove that this is not political vendetta. There is no reason for any vindictiveness. Mr. Kamal Hassan is not my rival in any way. The reason we did it under Section 144 was to give time for tempers to cool down so that both sides could have a discussion and come to an agreement. Now there has also been a lot of talk. Mr. Kamal Hassan has said that he has pledged all his properties and he stands to lose everything if the film is not released. Now Mr. Kamal Hassan is nearing 60. He's 58 years old. He's a responsible adult. What he has done is to take a calculated risk, a calculated gamble. If he has taken a decision to produce a movie with a mega budget running to hundreds of crores, and if he has pledged all his properties for the same, that is a conscious decision that he took. So how can the government be held responsible for that? How can the government be accountable for that? Now coming to the actual ban itself, I have no interest in movies. I stopped seeing movies years ago. Earlier, during my earlier terms as Chief Minister, many cinema producers and directors used to invite me to watch their movies. And once in a while, I used to oblige them if they were friends. But now they have understood I'm not interested. I'm simply not interested. So actually they have stopped inviting me. Because films don't interest me anymore. I have no time to watch movies. So I knew nothing about Vishwaroopam, personally. And as for the Muslim leaders who have been protesting against the movie, I have not met them so far in this regard. They have not met me either. What happened was that this movie was announced, that the release of this movie was announced. And leaders of several Muslim organizations, including a federation comprising 24 Muslim organizations, they presented a memorandum to the Chief Secretary. This was quite some time ago. Chief Secretary forwarded this memorandum to the Home Secretary. And then the concerned Muslim organizations representatives met the Home Secretary. At that stage itself, they wanted to see the movie. So from the government side, a request was made to Mr. Kamal Hassan to show the movie to a few representatives of the Muslim organizations. Had he done it then itself, all this trouble probably could have been avoided. But he avoided showing the movie. He actually set a date invited them all to his office to watch the movie. And after they all went there, then he told them that the release of the movie had been postponed. And so he was not able to, he was not willing to screen it that day. Then almost a month went by. Then again there was a delay in the release. That was because of a problem that he faced with theatre owners because he announced release of the movie through DTH. Government was in no way involved in the delay of the release. Then finally, again, at the very last moment, when the film was scheduled for release on 25th January, on 21st January, he called the representatives of Muslim organizations and showed the movie to them in his office. That was also at the urging of the government. After watching the movie on 22nd, all the representatives of the Muslim organizations sat together and decided that they did not want the film to be released. So then they asked for a meeting with the Home Secretary. They met the Home Secretary on 23rd and they demanded a total ban on the movie. After that, there was a discussion at the highest level of the government, and at that time the Muslim leaders had announced a series of agitations, demonstrations in various places, and they also said that they would hold demonstrations outside each cinema theatre wherever it was released. So then the government took all this into consideration and weighed the pros and cons. If there were violent incidents outside 524 theatres, no government could handle it, no police force, no state police force could handle it. And if we did allow the violence to occur, there was every apprehension that there would be violent incidents. If that did occur, then the police would have to resort to lathi charges, bursting tear gas, firing water cannons. And then the government would have been accused by the same media persons and the same political leaders of unleashing repressive measures against a particular community. And the same Mr. Karunanidhi and other political leaders would have jumped on the other side of the bandwagon and supported the Muslims and said that the government is out to suppress and repress the legitimate feelings of a particular community. So we took all this into consideration and decided. At that time, I must point out, Mr. Kamal Haasan was not prepared to make any changes in his movie. He was not prepared to effect a single cut. So at that time, in order to maintain public peace, in order to preserve law and order, in order to prevent the outbreak of uncontrollable violence all over the state government had no other option but to issue an order under section 144 of the CRPC. This was done by the district collectors using their powers as district magistrates. And this was only for a period of 15 days. As I said, if we really wanted to ban the movie, we could have used section 7 of the Cinemas Regulation Act 1955. But we chose to use only section 144. Now under section 144, if Mr. Kamala Haasan so wanted, he could have approached the government at that stage itself and sought recourse. And we would have facilitated a dialogue between him and the Muslim leaders. But instead he chose to go immediately to the court. He chose to go to the High Court immediately and filed a writ petition against the government. Then after that, you know what has happened. So, even at this stage, now there has been another charge against me that I was personally responsible for this ban here in Tamil Nadu. If that were the case, now the film has been banned in Singapore, it's been banned in United Arab Emirates, it's been banned in Qatar, it's been banned in Sri Lanka. It was first released and then banned in Malaysia also. Then there were several violent incidents in Karnataka, and there were several violent incidents in Andhra and in Kerala. Was I responsible for all that? Do I control the governments there? There were several incidents in Mysore where angry mobs burst inside a theatre, set fire to the theatre premises, smashed the projector. So how can all this be attributed to me? And in Singapore, there is a big Muslim population there, also a sizable Muslim population. Why was the film banned in Singapore? Why was it banned in Andhra? Why was it banned in neighboring Puducherry? In Andhra, it's a Congress government. In Karnataka, it's a BJP government. In Puducherry, it's a different government. How can I be held responsible for this? So this shows that where the Islamic community is concerned, the media has been referring to certain fringe groups. They are not fringe groups. They may be individuals, but they head various organizations. And in the Tawheed Jamaat alone, they've got more than 7.5 lakh members. And it becomes a pan-India movement. So it is ridiculous to blame me for whatever has transpired. So even at this stage, what I would like to now tell you is, some of the Muslim organizations, some of their representatives have conveyed to me that though in the beginning Mr. Kamala Hassan was adamant about not making any cuts in the movie, yesterday he has offered to delete certain portions which are found to be very objectionable. And the Muslim organization leaders seem to be in a frame of mind to accept that. So as far as the Tamil Nadu government is concerned, as far as I am concerned, as Chief Minister, I would like to say this, that if the leaders of the Muslim organizations and Mr. Kamala Hassan can sit together and work out an amicable agreement, the government of Tamil Nadu will do everything possible to facilitate that.
Would that mean revoking the ban, revoking the 1.5?
Now let us go into those details later. It is Mr. Kamala Hassan who has filed the writ petitions in the courts. So what I am saying now is, this has come to me from some of the Muslim organizations. So if the Muslim organizations and Mr. Kamala Hassan are ready to sit down and work out an amicable agreement, and if he agrees to delete certain portions which they find very objectionable, then the decks could be cleared for the screening of the movie, and the Tamil Nadu government will do everything to facilitate such an amicable agreement. Everything else is understood in that.
Ma'am, because of this controversy, do you think the secular fabric of the state has been affected? Secondly,
Not at all, not at all.
By people personalities, and also has the freedom of speech also been scuttled in the state of Tamil Nadu?
Certainly not.
By
I have rebutted all that in my arguments now. Where is the necessity? There is no question of curbing the freedom of speech. What was facing the government was a pure law and order problem. We have done what we have done only in the interest of maintaining law and order. That is all.
Ma'am, Manish Tiwari has tweeted that he wants to amend the Cinematographer's Act so the states won't have the arbitrary right to ban a movie. That's what he tweeted to me.
I do not wish to respond to Mr. Manish Tiwari. I think he has got a lot of homework to do. I think he hasn't heard about the Tamil Nadu Cinemas Regulation Act of 1955. And I think he doesn't know about this judgment of the Supreme Court where the Tamil Nadu government's ban on the film Dam 999 was challenged and the petition was thrown out by the Supreme Court and our ban order was upheld.
And Mr. Kamal Hassan had met you on a couple of occasions on his birthday.
That was long ago.
Yes, ma'am. Was this issue put across to you?
No, never.
Nothing transpired, nothing discussed at all.
No. Yes, what is it?
Has Rajkumar been trying to approach you to seek an appointment with you to sort out this issue now after this?
After Mr. Kamala Hassan returned from America, he sent a letter seeking an appointment with me. But then he had already filed a writ petition in the court at that time. So how could I meet him when the writ petition was pending in the court?
Madam, do you think this issue would have sorted out amicably without so many controversies, so many
How? What is your question?
No, ma'am, do you think that this issue would have been sorted out amicably with, meeting the political leaders before itself and sorting out the...
I explained the entire sequence of events If Mr. Kamala Hassan had screened the movie for the leaders of the Muslim organizations in the beginning, all this could have been avoided. இப்போ இது ஒரு தீர்வு வரதுக்கு என்ன செய்யறதுன்னு பார்த்துட்டு இருக்கோம். அதனால why should we discuss all that now? திமுக கட்சி தலைவர் என்ன பிரச்சனை எழுந்தாலும் அதுல அரசியல் செய்யணும்னு தான் பாப்பாரு. எங்களை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் இது அரசியல் பிரச்சனையே கிடையாது. இது வெறும் சட்டம் ஒழுங்கு பிரச்சனை தான். Now, if there had been violence all over the state, I must point out another thing. The whole of yesterday there were violent incidents from the morning till the evening at various places. Some 12 petrol bombs were found in Coimbatore. There was stone pelting in Dindigul. And in other places banners were set on fire. Some theatres were smashed. There was a chain of incidents after the single judge gave his order the day before yesterday night, at night, lifting the ban the government had imposed. So from early morning yesterday till evening there were various incidents. It was only when the first bench of the High Court, headed by the acting CJ, again imposed the ban. It was only after that that these incidents died down. So the threat to public peace, threat to law and order is very real. I must also point out that the Muslim organizations had announced a series of agitations, and only after the government issued this order under section 144 of the CRPC, all those agitations were called off. So as far as the state government is concerned, our primary objective was only to maintain law and order. In that we have succeeded. But otherwise we have no intention of harming Mr. Kamala Hassan or curbing freedom of speech or expression. We have no such intentions. So I will repeat, there is no need to say anything more. If the leaders of the Muslim organizations and Mr. Kamala Hassan are willing to sit down and arrive at an amicable agreement, the government of Tamil Nadu will do everything possible to facilitate that.
So the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister J. Jayalalithaa there listing out reasons why prohibitory orders were placed on Kamal Hassan's Vishwaroopam. She's insisting she has no axe to grind, she has no vested interest involved here. She said she's going to sue those people who talked about the 100 crore deal with Jaya TV. She's also said this is basically a law and order issue. No personal vendetta against Kamal Hassan.